morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from Red Bay, Alabama. Today's verse is 1 John 4:13. By this we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit. Now this is the third of four by this statements that John makes in chapter 4 to assure his audience who are Christians that this is how you know you're a Christian. This is how you have that confidence in your Christianity. Let's look at those. Verse 2 says, by this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God. So this is how you know the true Spirit. Then we jump to verse 9. By this the love of God was manifested in us, that God has sent his only begotten Son into the world so that we might live through him. This is how God's love should be obvious in our lives. And then today's verse, by this we know that we abide in him and he in us, which is even more important, because he has given us of his Spirit. So this is how we know that we're abiding in him, because his Spirit is inside of us. And I'm going to get that in just a second. And then a verse we're going to hit in a few more weeks, verse 17, by this love is perfected with us, so that we may have confidence in the day of judgment, because as he is, so also are we in this world. So we could have this confidence because that love is working in us, and that's the evidence. Now back to today's verse. It says, this is how we know that we abide in him and he in us, because he has given us of his Spirit. And this is the amazing thing about Christianity, that God himself, the Spirit of God, dwells within us if we are true Christians. And it's at this point I'd like to go over a metaphor I created, which I used once before, but I think it would be apropos to repeat it again. And that is the metaphor of the car. So your life is a car and you are the driver. And you're driving along and you see the Holy Spirit down the road. Now, if you are an atheist, you'll just keep right on driving by. If you are an agnostic, you may drive up, stop before the Holy Spirit, roll down the window, maybe even hear what he has to say, and then drive on by. Now, if you're like a lot of people that consider themselves Christians, you may drive up, roll down, listen to the Holy Spirit, and even obey. As the Spirit says, I want you to take a left here and a right there, and blah, blah, blah. And you think, boy, that must make me a Christian because I'm listening to the Spirit and I'm obeying. But in my metaphor, we're not a Christian yet, not at that point. And that is because the Spirit's still on the outside. And we're still doing all of the work with our own human efforts as we're driving the car. See, the Spirit wants to take full control. He wants us to scooch over into the passenger seat, and he wants to get into the driver's seat, come into our lives, and take full control. The steering wheel, the gear shifter, the brakes, the gas, the buttons, everything. He wants to do it all. And he wants us just to sit there and allow him to control our lives. And that, in my metaphor, is when we truly become Christians, when he comes in and takes over full control and we surrender full control to him. Now, I will admit that once that has happened, I'm there in the passenger seat, and once in a while I'll still try to rule, get the control of the steering wheel or fiddle with the buttons, or even worse, try to shift gears, which is a disaster when the Lord is trying to run my life. I can mess things up and still sin even though I'm a Christian. But when I can sit there and allow him to truly control my life, that is true perfection, and I can have moments of that true perfection. And that's how we know that we abide in him and he in us. There should be obvious times when the fruit of the Spirit is really working in our lives. Love primarily, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. When he is driving, those things abound. So let's choose to love every moment, because then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a great week.